There are some stories that you hear and then you wonder, did these things really happen? Is someone making these stories up? Hmm. Do you know what? I actually did meet a doctor who performs surgeries with no scars, zero mortality rates, and at no cost. Interested? Come closer. Let me tell you the story. I'm going to share how we met, where we met, and how you too can meet him in case you need his services. All right. So it happened a few years ago. I was a student then, and it was the holidays, and I had gone, home. There was this movie set. Then I really wanted to join the Nollywood, Nollywood film stuff. Every young person then, just like the way the internet is today, every young person wanted to become an actor. So I went for this audition and I was picked to do one of the crowd scene. I was very excited, I was very, very excited. So after our shooting for the day, we retired back to the room where we were kept. We were about six of us, I think either five or six of us in a room. So we were all there that evening. Before we retired to the room, I wouldn't say I was sick, but I was just feeling this, sort of, hey, that feeling that you have where you can't really say this is what is wrong with me, but you just know something is not just so okay. So that was the kind of feeling I was having. I felt I was stressed. I needed to rest because of all the shooting for the day and all of that. So I got to the room, took my bath, lay down, and just was relaxing. This should be about 7, 8ish in the night. So while I was lying down there, all of a sudden I started feeling this shortness of breath. Like I couldn't breathe. I struggled for a while, struggled. And the more I was struggling to breathe, the harder it became. I started feeling fever, like everything just happened at once. I was feeling feverish, I was having headaches, like as if my whole body system just, changed mode and everything was just happening to me at once. So I had to tap the other lady by my side. I couldn't talk. I was just tapping her. And she was saying, what? But she turned and saw that I was like shaking. And then she stood up on the light and she was like, Tina, what is it? What is it? What is it? I could not say anything. Like I was just holding her hand and squeezing it so hard because I was struggling to breathe. And she tried to pull me up to sit down, but I was just shaking. She had to alert everyone else, and then they called the production manager, and before you know it, everybody was running around trying this, trying that. You know how it is under emergency situation, pour water, pour oil. Everybody was just trying something. Some people were praying and all of that. And when they saw that, after a few minutes of, maybe they were thinking I was going to calm down, and after, I don't know, a couple of minutes, and they realized this was getting worse. They put me in the production van and off they went to the nearest clinic. There was a clinic not too far from where we were camped. So when they got to the clinic, um, it was an emergency situation, obviously. They came around, tried to do their thing, to resuscitate me. At this time, they said I was breathing once in every 4 minutes. Once every 4 minutes. I think an average person who is healthy and okay breathes like 172 times in a minute. I don't know. If you're a doctor in the house, you can comment to give us the correct thing just in case I'm not getting it right. But I should think it's about 72 times in a minute is how a normal person breathes. But I was breathing once in 4 minutes. So it was obvious that life was gradually ebbing away. So the clinic told them they can't handle something this serious, that they are not equipped for that, that the much they can do is to place me on an oxygen and release their ambulance so that they can take me to the teaching hospital. That's the place they think this can be handled. A situation like this can be handled because obviously whatever is happening to me is happening to my respiratory organs and my heart, and they can't handle any such serious cardiovascular issue. So The team had no choice because they didn't want anyone dying on their set. So they agreed, took the ambulance, they put me in the ambulance and everything and all the oxygen, and they took me to the Lagos State Teaching Hospital. That's a Luth. So when they got to Lut, also I was rushed into the emergency, and all the emergency stuff did that. All sorts of machines came out. They were trying to resuscitate me and trying to calm down the situation. I think at some point I passed out. I didn't know what happened anymore. When I came to the next day, I was still in the emergency ward the next day, and think they have started running tests. They have been able to bring the breathing back, not to exact how it should be with a normal person, but at least some away from that once in 4 minutes. And I was a bit calm, so they started running their tests. They ran all kinds of scans. They did X-rays. They were trying to find out what the problem was. I think it was a day later or so. I think a day or two later, all the results were in, because the doctor said he can't ascertain what the problem is until he sees all of the results put together. So all the results came in, and when they had finished looking at the results, they came back to say that I had a hole in my heart. I had a hole in my heart. Oh, Jesus. It was one of those scary moments. Hole in the heart. Ah, mm. It was an unbelievable situation. Everyone was shocked. Of course, it's beyond what the production people can handle. And when they were asking questions, they realized I was a student in University of Ibadan. So they were like, okay, they had to transfer me from Lut to University College Hospital, Ibadan. So they put me in an ambulance again. I think this was like 4 days after the initial incident, and off I went to Ibadan. Let me just backtrack a little. A few, maybe like 2 years before that time, I had an incident where I had very chronic pneumonia that you know defied all sorts of treatment. And the problem was that pneumonia was not noticed. Like, they were treating me for something very different for a very long time without knowing it was pneumonia. By the time they finally discovered it was pneumonia, it was like too late. Too late. So many things had gone wrong. My rib cage had enclosed into my heart. And why I said this is because the doctor then said that something had happened, traumatic happened, that moved my rib cage, and enclosed it into my heart. So this was exactly what happened. I knew when this story behind, but this doctor didn't know it. But when they were now saying this was what happened, I could track it back that was when this whole thing happened. But that is a story for another day. What happened then is another story. We'll get to that in a separate time. But now let's concentrate on this. So we got to Ibadan, and then the team in Ibadan started their own test and all of that, just to ascertain that the result from Lagos, because they came with all the medical history and notes and everything. So they had to run their own test to ascertain that what they said is wrong with me is what is wrong with me. So I think then school was just resuming. That should be like the first week of school resumption, you know. So after their test, the results came back. After a few days, I think I had been there for like 4 5 days. The results came back the same. I had a hole in my heart. And the cardiologist, there was a consultant cardiologist on the case, was a very elderly man, told me then that I had to be flown to India for the surgery to be conducted because as at then, I don't know if it's being handled here now. As at then, they don't conduct such. They don't have any specialists in Nigeria that can handle, that level of heart surgery. So that the cost for the surgery, just the surgery alone, was 4 million. Then, that is aside travel arrangements and whoever will go with me and all the other logistics involved. Just the money to be paid to the hospital for the treatment was 4 million. When he told me this, see the way I just laughed now. That was stupid. I laughed. Even though I was so sick, I can't move, I can't stand up. I was just on the bed. Everything was plugged to my body. I weed, I pooed, I did everything on the bed. I could not move. As at that time, I still mustered enough energy to laugh. And I told the doctor, I said, Doctor, since I came here, have you seen anyone apart from, I think as at then I had found a way to contact my friends in school to let them know I was there. So I think it was just once that a few of my friends came around. I said, I know you don't come here all the time. Maybe you can ask the nurses. Since I got here, no one has been here. No relative. Nobody, like no elderly person who can even say, okay, let me run around and go and look for money. And it's not like it's today where you can make calls, call this, call this. Apart from that, who was I going to call? I was a community goat. Let me use that. I was a community goat owned by everybody. As at then, I had lost my mom. My dad was nowhere to be found. So I was this person owned by all uncles, cousins, and relatives put together. Nobody in particular. No one in particular will say I'm the one responsible for this girl or I'm the one training her. So I'm this kind of person that when it's time to go back to school, I go to Uncle A, please. Uncle A will say, maybe I don't have, or this is the little I have, Uncle B. So you go around like that, right now you go around all the uncles and aunties, whatever you're able to, gather together, that's what you get. But I use the proverb that was a community goat. What kills the community goat is hunger. Because everyone believes that the other person had taken care of the goat. This family will say, oh, that family must have given the goat food. That other family will say, oh, maybe that other family must have given the goat food. That is how everyone assumes that this other person had fed the goat. And at the end of the day, the goat died from hunger. So that was, a picture of me. I was this, by the time I finished going around, most times I don't get anything meaningful. Then I go back to school just managing. So at least twice the lecturers had to pay school fees for me. It was that bad. I was I was managing to survive in school. I was an indigent student. As at that time, I had never owned a room in school. I was an official squatter, squatting from one room to the other. So that you now see why I laughed at the doctor like, have I ever seen 100,000 buck? As at that time, like 100K put together buck. I'd never seen it before. So where was 4 million going to come from? I even told the doctor, if you sell me, will you even get 4 million? Who will buy me at 4 million? And, the doctor felt very bad and sad about what I said. But he told me that there was no other way around it. It wasn't like what was wrong with me was something they could treat or something they could give me medicines to recover after some time. So he left that day saying, well, let them see what they can do. So the doctor and his team left. Then I think the next day my friends came and I told them because my friends thought it was just a minor, normal, a student is sick pain. Maybe after a few weeks I'll be fine and we'll all go back to, life will go back to normal. But when they came and I told them that this is what is going on and this is what the doctor said, we all hugged ourselves and cried because it was like, where where do we start from? Where? I said, where? So I had to. It was a hopeless situation. Actually, there was just no light. Like when people say there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. This one we can't even see any light. Everywhere was completely dark. There was no hope anywhere. There was nowhere to turn to. Nobody to call. Nobody to talk to. So what my friends did was they went back to school and they tried to do things on their own. They organized a rag day. They gathered a few people who were willing to join them, and they wore rags and went into the streets of Ibadan to go and beg, to raise money that could be. I don't know how much they had in mind they were going to raise, but at least there was no harm in trying. So they went out and did the best they could. After a few days, they gathered everything they had raised and brought it. A day after my friends came, the doctor and his team returned. All this while, I'm living on the mercy of the hospital. I didn't pay anything to be there because as a student of the school, there's this amount of money you pay when you're paying your school fees, which are for medical. So I think that was what was covering my stay there. So the doctor and his team came back and they told me that they had tried their best. The consultant especially was looking very moody, very sad. He told me that they had contacted a few NGOs to see where they could raise some support, but presently they've not gotten any good answers so far. They've also contacted a few individuals here and there to see how to raise support for my case. And presently, as at now, there is none on ground, and they can't just keep me here. So they are planning to discharge me. I have to go home and you know be there until by the time they are able to come up with something. If I'm still there, well. If not, but he was quite nice. He tried to sound as nice, as gentle, and as empathic as he could. But it was like trying to avoid saying the inevitable. He didn't want to say we are discharging you to go home and die. That would sound very harsh. That would sound very crude. So he was just playing around it and trying to make it sound as good as it can sound. But even from the faces and the looks of all the other doctors with him, it's a teaching hospital. There are student doctors, there are other younger doctors. You could see on their faces it was a hopeless case, and everybody was avoiding making eye contact with me and all of that. And I just listened patiently. I said nothing because there was nothing to say. Then the doctor finished talking and he left. This was in the evening. He left. When he left, I took a while to take it in, to really, come to terms with the fact that this is the end. Like, this is the end. And I just burst into bitter tears. Very sad tears. Like, I was like, God, I think as at then I was maybe 21. I'm like, God, in my 21 years on this earth, I can't recall how many times I've been happy. I can't recall when everything was rosy for me. Did you send me to this earth to suffer? To suffer and die? Well, I knew I was going to die anyway, so I was like, it's okay, it's fine, I've made my peace, I'm not angry. God, I'm not angry at you, and I'm not angry at anyone else. I'm only angry at life, that life has been very unfair to me. I wouldn't say there's anything I have gained from this earth or any kind of happiness I have had to enjoy in my 21 years here. But if that is your plan for me, if that is the way you plan for my life to go, well, it's fine. I'm okay. I'm fine. And I said, this night is a good night. Let's end the whole thing here. I'm ready to go. I'm just ready. So my prayer was that when I sleep that night, he shouldn't allow me wake up the next morning, because there was no need. Because I had thought about it. Where exactly am I being released to go? Because I can't go back. I don't have a room in school, so I cannot go and be a burden with all those medical drama in another person's room. Now, where is home exactly? My home is like from one uncle's house to the other uncle's house. If I was not even like, having one swell time then when I'm fully okay, participating and contributing, whatever I can do to the house, is it now that I'm like a vegetable? What use will that be? So I was like, there was no need to just go and be this kind of where no. I've thought of all of that. None of it made sense. And did I mention that my uncle is a lecturer in this same school? Wow. That is still a story for another day. I have lots of them. So I had made up my mind, and I was like, God, let's just end this thing this night. Then that when he got, I don't know at what time, but I don't think I slept off, because I was still talking, I was still crying, and all of a sudden two nurses walked into the room. They had a trolley, they just dragged in this trolley into the room, and they came in and they started setting up a few things. So I turned my head, I'm like, because these two nurses are not the usual ones. I had nurses there that have gotten used to that are taking care of me. So these nurses were not part of the team that I know that had been taking care of me. So these two nurses came in and they started setting up all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, excuse me, what's happening? They're like, we are setting up to take care of you. And I'm like, okay, I don't get it. Take care of me how? The doctor never said anything was happening this evening. He didn't tell me that when he came in earlier today. And one of the nurses was like, Tina, relax, with a smile. She was very, nice and smiling, and said, Tina, just relax. You'll be fine. We are here to take care of you. Then they continued setting up. Then maybe like something that looked like 10 minutes later, another set of people came in. This one we had three people that looked like they were doctors. With what they were wearing, you could tell they were doctors. So they came in with someone that I think one of them might be like a technician. He came in with something that looked like set of equipment. So they just came in and started setting up all sorts of things, setting up lights, setting up. And I'm like, what's going on? Why somebody should tell me something? What's going on here? And one of the doctors now said, we're about to conduct your surgery. I'm like, surgery? I don't have money. The amount they say I'm going to pay, I don't have it. And they say it's supposed to be in India, and we are here. I don't get it. How are you conducting surgery? Where is the doctor? And what I heard was still, relax. Can you just relax and let us do what we are here to do? I'm like, okay. I just kept quiet, and then they continued setting up. And a few minutes later, another doctor walks in. This doctor, I didn't see his face. I could just see from where I was lying there, I could see the down part of his uniform. It looked glittering white. Then he came in, and I felt this kind of calmness in that room. That's like the atmosphere became very calm and very peaceful. But I was wide awake. And then the surgery began. And I could see, like I was looking at everybody, I could see, I saw them wash their hands, do all their stuff, tie all these things on their faces. And then I could see hands doing like equipment moving. When the doctor makes his hand like this, equipment will come and he was just doing something. And I was wide awake. And this whole thing was going on. I think this whole thing could have gone on for maybe an hour, 30 minutes or so. From the time the setup started to when the surgery started to when the surgery ended. And I was watching them. Everything was just, I had never been into a theater room. Okay, maybe I had done appendicitis at some time. It was in a village hospital, so it wasn't anything as too sure, as tech as what was in that room. I think it was when I watched Grey's Anatomy that I was like, wow, yeah. When I saw the theater in Grey's Anatomy, that I was like, yeah, this is the kind of setup I saw in that room. So the surgery went on. They were just, everything was back. They were just bringing this, bringing that, cutting this, cutting that, arranging this, arranging that. Everything was just going on. No sound, nobody was talking, but they were just walking. And after everything, they stopped what they were doing. I started packing up, I started cleaning up, started packing up, started arranging. I saw the doctor remove the gloves from his hands and wash off his hands. And he now went to, at the edge of the bed, there's this thing like a file, where they write, maybe a doctor finishes seeing a patient, he writes something on the file. So the doctor went, picked that pen, came and wrote something on it and handed it back, and then walked back to me. As at this time, the other people were just packing up and moving out. He walked up to me, and just imagine like as if it was like a camera was in that room, and for the first time the camera panned to his face. So all the while he's been doing everything I was doing, I never saw his face, but now the camera panned to his face. And then he smiled at me, and I knew exactly who he was at this point. And he just, moved my head like this and shook my head. That shaking is like, I'll tell you the story about that head pain. It used to be like our code for him to say it's me. I knew exactly who he was. And he smiled. And then after shaking my head, he gave me a little tap on my shoulder and he walked out. And I was still smiling when the lights, like the nurse went out, and then the lights in the room went off and became normal like it was before. Now, the room I was in that hospital, we are supposed to be 2 in that room, but they had discharged the person on the other bed that morning, so I was all alone in the room. So as soon as the last nurse went out and the light came back to normal, I felt pressed. Okay, now, all this while I had been sick, been here, I don't even know when I be or when I don't feel anything. But for the first time, I felt pressed and I felt like I should stand up. Then I stood up and started taking out some of the things that were plugged to my body. I took them out and I wore my slippers and I walked out, heading towards the toilet. Outside, there's a passage between my room and where the toilet was. So I was just walking down that hall, and I had gotten very close to the door of the toilet when I heard my name, Tina. Then I turned and I saw the nurse, and she screamed, Tina, you're walking! Tina, you're walking! And I'm like, okay. I was trying to figure out why was I not supposed to walk. I was just trying to figure out, maybe I was in a trance or something. I was, just trying to come to and trying to understand why she was screaming. It was not making sense in my head why she was screaming. And I'm like, yes, I want to ease myself. And she just kept screaming, Tina, you're walking! Tina, you're walking! Tina, you're walking! And of course, her screams attracted some other nurses, and they started running towards me. And I'm like, trying so hard to figure out why they were screaming. And just before the nurse got close to me, it was like, it dawned on me like, oh, okay, I've not walked since I got here. And I just fell down. And then they came, they picked me up, and I fell down and I weaned myself. So they picked me up, took me back to the room, cleaned me while they were still screaming, Tina, you walked, you got up from your bed, you walked by yourself. They were just shouting and shouting and shouting. And of course, one of them ran off to go call the doctor on duty that night. So the doctor came and started checking me, started running, checking one or two things. At that night, they could not run tests that night, but I was calm, I was sitting down, and they were asking me what happened. And I'm like, the surgery was conducted. They said, what surgery? I said, the heart surgery. Conducted by who? When? How? Where? Where were we? And everybody felt like I was talking rubbish. I said, what is she hallucinating? Is she all right? Everybody was asking me questions just to ascertain that I was conscious, and at a point I told them I was tired, I wanted to sleep because the questions were just too many and I didn't understand why there were just too many questions. So at a point they left me. I slept off. The next morning, doctors had landed my room, everywhere was busy. They came and took me to go run tests. They took me to the lab. They ran the test, they went to do x-rays, they went to run a heart scan, and the results came out. There was no hole anymore. And it was unbelievable. It was like, what happened? How? When? Where? And of course, the story was already going around the hospital. The consultant came later in the day and like, what's the story? He's hearing what's going on. And the doctor requested, in fact, he left all the other tests that the younger doctors had done and took me himself to go run fresh tests. He ran the test, the results will come out the next day. He said he doesn't understand what's going on, but everybody should remain calm. But by this time, the story had gone around the hospital that this girl that had a hole in her heart, miraculously the hole has healed. I kept saying, Jesus came and did this surgery. I saw him do the surgery. He was here and I saw him with his team of doctors and they conducted this surgery. But there was no scar anywhere on my body, even though I can vividly, replay how that surgery was going on, but there was no scar anywhere. But the hole was gone. That was how people were like. My room automatically became like Jerusalem. Everybody was rushing to my room. People who had their sick ones in the hospital, they were coming to my room. Oh, I tapped from this miracle. 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 And so the shock of everyone, I don't know whether it's their faith, I don't know, but people were just getting well. From different words, the story just was spreading, and as you will hear scream from somewhere that somebody is now okay, somebody who was sick of this is now feeling better. That was how more people were now trooping to my room. Between that day and the next day, when the consultant doctor was waiting for the result, he ordered to be out so he can be sure of what they are saying. Jesus, my room had become, where everyone was trooping to. People were touching me from left, right, and center. People were dropping offerings on my body. Some people were dropping it on my bed. People were bringing all kinds of gifts, all kinds of everybody. I tap, I connect, I tap, I connect. People were coming. And a college hospital is a very big hospital. So people were coming from different departments, different wards. The nurses were having a hell of a time trying to stop people from, things like that. You can't stop people from coming in. Some people were even going to carry their people on a wheelchair to bring them there, to come and tap, to come and touch me. As in, this miracle became widespread in the hospital, and a lot of patients got their healing. a lot of patients got their healing. In fact, the information got to the admin of the hospital, because now they were like, no, they should discharge me and let me go from the hospital, because the rowdiness and the chaos and all of that and everything that was going on in the hospital was too much. At a point, they had to now allow people to come in badge by badge. That was how the miraculous were just spreading. The thing was that Jesus came to that hospital that day, and you know how the story goes. Anywhere Jesus goes, it's not one miracle that will happen. So it was mass miracle, and all everybody was doing was, as they trusted God, because it had nothing to do with me. I was not praying for anybody, so I would not say I prayed or I did anything. I did not do nothing. My own was just sit there and keep narrating the story over and over and over and over again. That was all I did, narrate the story. And as they believed, and as they tapped, those who tapped into it, they got their miracle. And the next day, the consultant doctor came back, and he had gone to collect all the results. He ordered, from the test he ordered, and then he looked at it and he was like, this is not real. Truly, there was no hole. In fact, there was no sign that anything had happened to my chest. Even the clog, my rib cage that had clogged had gone back to the way it was. Everything had miraculously overnight reset, like my whole chest area, my rib cage, my heart, everything had gone back to normal. And the doctor is like, this is unbelievable. What did you say happened again? I'm sure I told that story over and over like 100 times, because I had to keep repeating it, because everyone that came, it sounded like, are you for real? Maybe the little people know is that, okay, when you're sick, you go to church and a pastor prays for you, or in a crusade, a pastor prays. This one is like, no, nobody came, nobody prayed, nobody did anything. Can this kind of thing ever happen? Yes, it happened. And I know, because it happened to me. And I'm telling this story to say that God is still in the business of doing miracles. The miraculous is still very much real. So peradventure, you're one of those doubting. You're one of those that had never believed that the miraculous is real. I am a living witness. I am alive. I am well. I'm physical. You can touch me. These things happen, and there are witnesses. And guess what? Years later, maybe another day I'll tell that story in full. A brother in the Lord was going through the same kind of issue, a heart issue. And when I got to hear about it, the Holy Spirit told me to just go and tell the guy, that brother, this story. That was all he asked me to do. Go and tell him this story. And I went to the hospital where he and his wife were there, and I said, God asked me to come and tell you people this story. And I told them this story. And they said, shock. It happened. Like I said, this is a story I will tell another day. But God is still in the business of doing miracles. And I am a living witness. I don't know if that's the only reason I am here on earth, because I have many of them, dramatic things like that has happened, where it wasn't like I went to any crusade or one pastor prayed for me. No, the ones that Jesus himself did. I will take them one after the other. And sometimes you don't know. I have believed that is my purpose here on earth, to go through this traumatic times or traumatic issues, or things that look like, there's no hope. Issues that look like there is no hope. And it's like it gets to that point, he allows it get to that point where everybody gives up and there is nowhere else to turn to. And then he steps in and says, I'm here. So peradventure, you are sick, or there's something going on in your life and you have given up hope and you believe there is no hope for you. Oh, the doctors have said I'm going to die. I hear some people will say, I have this kind of sickness, cancer, or any kind of sickness at that, and I've been given 5 months to live, 3 months to live. Can you dare trust? Can you just, like, if you've tried every other thing, like there's nothing else to lose anyways, can you like trust God? Just, say in your heart, and Father, there is nowhere else to go. I have tried everything. Or maybe I don't even have the money to try, like it was my case. I have no money to try. But there is no other hope. Can you try Jesus and put your hope in Him? And say, Father, I'm dropping this situation at your feet. There is nothing else for me to do. Is this something you can handle for me? Can you make that attempt? If you can, then do it and see what will happen. This is directly between you and God. There is no intermediary. There is nobody standing in the gap. You will not say, oh, pastor, pray. If you see, just you on your own, wherever you are, on that hospital bed, in your house, in your room, even if you are in a hospice situation and it seems like there is no hope, can you try Jesus? Is this something you think you can do? And say, Jesus, this is me. This is my situation, which He already knows anyway. I have nowhere else to turn to. There is no other hope for me. But I give it up to you. I'm saying, Lord, help me. If you can pray that prayer sincerely from your heart and you mean it, because I realize that as long as you still have an alternative, Jesus does not come when you have an alternative. If you look at all the stories in the Bible where He healed, there has to be no other alternative. If you have an alternative, you can still go and try it. But if you, like me at that situation, had come to the end of the road, no hope, nowhere else to turn to, then Jesus is the next place. And I assure you, like I know it, that this is me. This is more than 20 years later. I am here. That sickness never occurred. There was never, do you know that doctor kept coming even after I was discharged and I went back to school? The consultant doctor, he came back to my school just to check on me to be sure that this thing was not a, boju, like, did this thing, what actually happened? Will this girl relapse? He came back like twice to pick me from school, take me back, check on me. He took me back to the hospital, just to run some more tests to just be sure. And every test, he kept coming back clean. And let me tell you one other part. Do you know, I went to that hospital, broke, sick, no money to pay for school fees when I resumed. Of course, I was an official squatter, so there was no plan of getting a room. But by the time I was leaving that hospital, I left rich. I left that hospital. I got back to school, paid my school fees. For the very first time as a student, I got an accommodation for myself. And I'm like, Jesus, you should have told me now that, you were just looking for a way to take care of me, all the needs I had in school, to pay off everything for me. If you had told me this, I would not have cried the way I cried. I would not have felt hopeless. But it was like I went in hopeless and I came back a success story. I came back like God turned my story around. And from there, so many other things happened. But I'm going to end this one for today. I know someone's life will never remain the same. I will hear your testimony. That is what I know. That if you believe, that is all the Lord has asked for. He didn't ask you to do any other thing other than believe. If you believe, there will be a miracle. Do you believe?